Hello, everyone. We're going to get started now. So good afternoon and welcome. My name is Carrie Hansen, and I'm the Skills Development Officer in Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. And I'm really excited to open up the 3-minute thesis, or ma thèse en 180 secondes, competition today. It's my first time organizing this event, although I've worked alongside the organizers for the past 5 years. But it's really something different to get to watch the trainings, the practice sessions, and be alongside the graduate students as they practice and present their research. And I was just blown away to see the transformation that happens in the work that they all put into it. So can we start with just a round of applause for the work that they put in today? We started with over 150 participants, and after weeks of training and practice, we have 14 finalists here today. It's been quite a journey for these graduate students, and I can't wait to see their hard work pay off. So thank you all for joining us, both in person and for tuning in online via the live stream. While some of us are here physically at McGill's Faculty Club, many of us are joining virtually from different places across Canada and even around the world. So thank you for joining us. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge the qualities of the physical space on which McGill is located. L'Université McGill est située sur un emplacement qui a longtemps servi de lieu de rencontre et d'échange entre les peuples autochtones, y compris les nations Haudenosaunee et Anishinaabe. McGill honors, recognizes, and respects the nations removed from, as well as those still connected to this land, as they are the traditional stewards of the lands and waters on which we meet today. As we are joined here today to celebrate the research at McGill, we want to recognize the land on which much of the work takes place. As you listen to these presentations, I invite you to reflect upon the ways these researchers connect their research to themselves, to place, or to land. I also hope that as graduate students continue to share their stellar research through this event, in the future we will have more research presented by Indigenous researchers or about land-based learning or research. Please consider this an open invitation to any grad student who has considered participating in 3MT or MT180. All are welcome. Now that I've done my bit of recruiting for next year, I would like to invite up the Dean of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, Josephine Nalbantoglu.
Thank you, Carrie. It really gives me great pleasure to be here, to see so many of you here. This is one of our elite events for graduate and postdoctoral studies. We always like celebrations, but this is also the end of a very long path of hard work for all the presenters. We really pride ourselves in the support we give our students to become world-class researchers. And part of that is to be able to communicate their research, whether it's in writing or verbally. And we have a lot of activities around campus. And the one that is really the biggest is the 3MT. They've really worked very hard, and they're going to have great presentations. Like, all of them are great at what they're doing, and it's going to be very hard for the judges to decide. But what you're also going to realize, and I realize it every year when I come to 3MT, is how much I learn. Like, all this information, and it's in a very digestible way that it's pitched to you. You see the impact right away. And what's even more important is that a few weeks from now, you'll still be reflecting on it. You'll still remember what they told you about their research, which is really the best thing that they can do. So I'm really looking forward to all the presentations. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for putting yourselves out there and volunteering for this. It was 150 students ago, a few months ago, but we worked really hard on this, and we really like the celebration that ensues from it. Thank you.
I also just want to take a moment to appreciate the work that led up to this very moment. A large team is behind making this event possible, and planning started all the way back in the fall. Firstly, I want to thank our wonderful graduate student team, especially our student leads, Dominique Louet and Nikki Lemley. I'll say a bunch of other thanks, but I won't make you clap between all of them. To our amazing communication team, Jennifer and Mateus, thank you so much. A thank you to our audio and videography team at the back and at the front. Jonathan, thank you for being with us each year. Thank you to the faculty club for hosting us in this beautiful venue. A shout out to our photographer today, Owen Egan. A special thanks to our GPS team, Hannah, Lorna, April, Sage, Sanhita, Andrew Churchill, Alex Gavrilla, and many other McGill staff for their contributions to this event. So with this, I'm excited to introduce our co-hosts for today, Candace and Fatima. Candace Cunningham is a PhD student in the integrated program in neuroscience at McGill. Following her passion about mental health, her thesis consists in studying a particular type of neuron in depression and schizophrenia. Finalist of the McGill 3MT in 2022, she is also involved in tutoring McGill students to work on their research presentations with the McGill Writing Center and with the postgraduate student office. And Fatima is a PhD student in the field of environmental engineering at McGill. She has built a human digestive system in the lab, wow, and uses it to study how gut microbiomes interact with infectious agents. She won the SED Talks 3MT competition organized by TISED in 2022, and since then has been working with TISED and TLS and now GPS to help facilitate presentation skills workshops. So please join me in welcoming Candace and Fatima.
Thank you, Carrie, for the introduction. This afternoon at the 3MT finals, you'll witness the brilliant work of our 14 graduate students who are from different disciplines across McGill University, who will be sharing their research in under 3 minutes, either in English or in French.
Cet après-midi, nos 14 finalistes issus de diverses disciplines partageront le fruit de leurs efforts et de leurs recherches en français ou en anglais en seulement 3 minutes. Nous allons tout d'abord commencer par vous donner un aperçu du concours et des différentes étapes qu'ont franchi les participants ce semestre pour arriver aujourd'hui jusqu'en finale. Nous ferons ensuite le tour de ce que cette compétition représente et de ses règles et critères d'évaluation du jury avant de passer au moment tant attendu des présentations.
In today's agenda, we'll start by giving you an overview of the presentation, the general competition overview, and the different steps our participant undertook to be here in front of all of you today. And then we'll go through a recap of what the competition entails, the rule and the judgment criteria, and then move on to the much-awaited participant presentations. Once the presentations are done, while the judges deliberate to decide the winner for the evening, we'll be having a QR code displayed here on the screen for you to choose your favorite presenter for the day to be awarded with the People Choice Award. And for those of you watching online, there will be a link in the YouTube description which you can use to vote. And at the same time, we'll be having a Q&A session where you can ask all of your questions to our participants.
Une fois les présentations terminées, une délibération des juges permettra de désigner les gagnants au cours de laquelle nous vous encouragerons à voter également de votre côté pour le prix du choix du public. Un QR code apparaîtra ici sur l'écran pour les spectateurs qui sont ici présents dans cette salle et un lien apparaîtra également en bas de la vidéo YouTube pour nos spectateurs sur Internet. Vous aurez ensuite l'opportunité de poser vos questions directement à nos candidats. Alors, avant de débuter, nous vous demanderons de bien vouloir éteindre vos téléphones portables ou toute autre sonnerie susceptible de déranger nos participants. Si vous étiez amené à devoir quitter la salle, nous vous demandons également de le faire entre les présentations et non pendant. Cette épreuve est particulièrement stressante et nous souhaitons les meilleures conditions possibles pour nos candidats.
Just a few housekeeping notes for our audience. Before we begin, make sure your phones and devices are all switched off. It's a pretty stressful event and we don't want to add up to our participants here. And in case if any of you need to step out for a moment, we please request you to wait and do it during the speaker transition period so as not to disturb the flow of our speakers. And it is also allowed to take pictures. We understand you would want to. It's completely allowed, but then please, again, make sure to not to disturb our speakers. Do not stand up while taking pictures and not flashes and no sound, please.
Alors, il est autorisé de prendre des photos, mais assurez-vous de rester assis à votre place et de ne pas utiliser de flash ni de son afin de ne pas déranger nos participants. Nous vous invitons également à nous rejoindre pour une réception après l'annonce des candidats.
After we're done with all the presentations and all the event, you're all requested, kindly welcome to join us for a reception in the lobby. And to give a little bit background on the 3MT competition itself, 3MT or 3 Minute Thesis is a communication competition developed by the University of Queensland in 2008 in Australia. Since then, it has now become an international competition happening across different universities in the world to celebrate graduate student research. At the competition, graduate students have 3 minutes and a single static slide to present a compelling oral presentation of their research to a non-specialist audience.
Donc la version française, quant à elle, est appelée Ma thèse en 180 secondes et s'inspire du 3MT. Elle a donc été reprise en 2012 au Québec par l'Association francophone pour le savoir, l'ACFAS, qui a souhaité étendre le projet à l'ensemble des pays francophones. Donc, au cours de cette compétition, les étudiants disposent de 3 minutes, et pas 1 seconde de plus, ainsi que d'une slide statique afin de présenter de manière originale et accessible leur sujet de recherche au grand public.
To add to the challenge of the presentation, no props, no music, and no notes. And they have to present it in a very clear voice. While each of the participants is presenting, we have our representative April here who will be noting the time. And if anyone goes over 3 minutes, that will be notified to the judges later during the deliberation. And the timer would start when you speak the first word and end at the last word.
Alors, aucun accessoire, costume ou musique ne sont autorisés. Le discours doit être présenté d'une voix claire et ne peut être chanté. Un membre de notre équipe, April, est chargé de chronométrer nos participants. Le jury sera ainsi informé si un candidat dépasse les 3 minutes. Le chronomètre démarre dès le premier mot et se termine au dernier mot parlé.
That brings us to the next question: how does the judgment work? The judges will be selecting the winners based on these 3 criteria. Communication. Was the talk delivered using a good pace, terminology, body language, and a slide that were easy to understand? And the second criteria is comprehension. Did the speaker clearly explain the research they conducted, the results they found, or anticipate finding, and the implications of the work? Brings us to the third criteria, engagement. Did the speaker convey enthusiasm, hold your attention throughout the presentation, and also made you want to listen to more of it?
Les gagnants francophones seront sélectionnés selon ces 3 critères. Le talent d'orateur et l'implication. Le candidat a-t-il su transmettre sa passion pour son sujet? A-t-il su utiliser sa voix et ses émotions pour nous donner envie d'en savoir plus? La structuration de l'exposé. Un équilibre entre les différentes parties de la présentation a-t-il été respecté? Et enfin, la vulgarisation. Le candidat a-t-il expliqué les concepts de sa recherche dans des termes accessibles et clairs à la compréhension? Il est important de souligner que les présentations seront évaluées sur la manière dont les candidats partagent leur contenu et non sur le contenu de la recherche en elle-même.
And it is important to note that the presenters are evaluated based on how well they present their information and not on the research itself. And this year, we had about 159 students who answered our call for submissions and were willing to participate in the competition. After 2 rounds of presentation skills training and several coaching sessions, they participated in heats which we had conducted in different days in mid-March. 14 best presenters selected from each of the heats are here in front of you to present today at the finals.
Donc cette année, 159 étudiants ont répondu à l'appel à candidature pour participer à la compétition. Après 2 sessions de formation et d'entraînement, ils ont participé aux sélections et seulement 14 d'entre eux ont été retenus pour présenter aujourd'hui, ici même. Enfin, une dernière session d'entraînement a été réservée à nos finalistes pour se perfectionner en vue du jour J auquel nous sommes présentement.
All our 14 finalists were also given one final training session to keep perfecting their talks. All of this to say is that all our 14 finalists who are going to present today has been working really hard to be here today.
Tout cela pour vous dire que nos finalistes ont travaillé très fort pour se rendre à cette compétition d'aujourd'hui. Mais avant de voir ces fameuses présentations, nous allons vous présenter nos juges ainsi que les différents prix à gagner.
Now we would like to invite our judging panel to the event today. We have 5 judges this year who cover a wide range of professional experience and educational background. Our first judge is Alex Liepens, PhD, an Associate Director in the Office of the Associate Provost in Teaching and Academic Planning. He also supports the Office of the Deputy Provost of Student Life and Learning with special projects. Since starting his career in McGill in 2017, he has had the privilege of contributing to a range of learning and development programs such as Skills 21, Skill Sets, Our Shared Spaces, Stay on Track, It Takes All of Us, and the President's Advisory Council on Engagement. Please welcome Dr. Liepens.
Our second judge, Joe Schwartz, is director of McGill University's Office for Science and Society, which has the mission of separating sense from nonsense. He is the recipient of numerous awards for teaching chemistry and for interpreting science for the public. He is also a recipient of the Order of Canada. Dr. Joe has hosted a radio show on science for 40 years, has appeared hundreds of times on televisions, writes regular newspaper columns, and is the author of 18 bestsellers. Professor Schwartz is also been awarded on honorary degrees by Athabasca University, Cap Breton University, the University of Windsor, and Simon Fraser University. Professor Schwartz is also an amateur magician and often spices up his presentations with a little magic. Please welcome Dr. Schwartz.
Our third judge in the panel is Sandy Herview, who is the head of the Nahum Gilbert Law Library at McGill University. Previously, she was a licensed librarian for political science, philosophy, and the School of Religious Studies at the Humanities and Social Sciences Library. She graduated from McGill with an MLIS in 2014. Her research interests include reference services, information literacy, and the impact of artificial intelligence on academic libraries. Please welcome Sandy Herview.
And now, our last but not least judge for the competition is Atia Amin, a PhD candidate and a Vanier Scholar at the Department of Human Genetics at McGill University. She was the winner of the 3 Minute Thesis competition at McGill University in 2022. She won both the first prize and the People's Choice Award at the Canadian Eastern Regional 3MT competition. Subsequently, Atia represented McGill University at the Canadian National 3MT Showcase and, again, received the People's Choice Award. Her success extended further as she represented Canada and won the North American 3MT Showcase, making her the first McGillian to achieve such distinction in the 3MT competition. Atia also represented Canada at an international graduate study conference hosted by Qatar University, where she stood out among 10 of the inspiring graduate students chosen worldwide. Please welcome Atia Amin.
Now that we have seen a bit about the competition, and then we have also welcomed our judging panel to the event, let's look at what happens when you win the competition. The judges will be awarding 4 prizes. We'll be having 2 winners, one each for the French and one for the English. which are both $750 each, and as well as we'll have a second and third place, which will be chosen from among all the participants. And the English winner will then advance to the Canadian Eastern Regionals.
Donc le jury décernera les premières places dans chaque catégorie, anglais d'une part et français d'autre part, qui se verront chacune attribuer une récompense de $750. Les deuxième et troisième places seront choisies parmi l'ensemble des candidats francophones et anglophones, et la personne qui reçoit le premier prix en français participera à la finale nationale du concours MT180 de l'ACFAS.
And that brings us to the People Choice Award, where all of you get to decide your favorite presenter. We'll come to the details later, but then keep your eyes open, ears open, so that you can choose your favorite presenter at the end.
Et ce sera donc à ce moment que vous, public, aurez l'opportunité de voter pour votre candidat préféré au prix du choix du public, indépendamment de la sélection des juges. Mais nous reviendrons à ça un peu plus tard.
And that brings us to the moment that we all have been waiting for, the presentations. We'll now invite on stage all the 14 graduate students, one after another, and they'll be giving their research presentation for under 3 minutes. So let's begin without any ado, and we would like to wish all the finalists very best for their presentations.
Our first candidate is Gabrielle Blanco Gomez. He is a PhD student in the integrated program in neuroscience. His presentation will be about unlocking the hidden keyboard in autism.
Picture this. You need to reply to a very important email from your boss, but as soon as you begin to type, you realize that some of the keys in your keyboard are not working. You panic and you frantically try to come up with a message, but you can't. Frustrating, right? Well, this is similar to the reality that many children with autism face every single day. Sometimes they want to communicate and they want to express their thoughts, but the keys in their brain are just not responding. Take, for example, someone like Leo. Leo is a 4-year-old boy with autism who absolutely loves dinosaurs. But when he wants to tell his parents about his favorite T-Rex, he struggles. Because again, some of those keys are not responding. Now, fortunately for Leo, there are many therapies that can help with language deficits. But here's the catch. Every child with autism is different, which means that they have their own unique keyboards with their own unique challenges. So finding a therapy that can work for someone like Leo can be very difficult. So how do we help him? Well, if we really want to understand the keyboard, we have to look at the whole computer, the components, the motherboard. And that happens to be right here in the brain. This is my PhD. I want to combine neuroscience and computational models to see what makes each child different, so that then we can match them to better targeted solutions. And this is how I do it. So I bring these cute little children into our clinic, and we have them wear a brain helmet, kind of like this one. This brain helmet lets us measure brain activity, so we can see how well your brain is connected, or how do you process things like sound. Then we have them do an eye tracking test. Eye tracking, it's great because it gives us a glimpse into how children view the world. So we can see whether they're paying attention to social cues or whether they're getting easily distracted. Then we can put together all of the brain data and all of the eye tracking data and feed it into an algorithm that gives us neurological profiles. In other words, we can see exactly what every child's keyboard looks like. But the question is, how can we use that information to actually make a real difference? Well, we recently partnered with the WHO on this 9-week workshop series where parents learn different ways that can help with their child's development. Our goal is to see how each of these different keyboards benefits from different aspects of the WHO treatment. So for someone like Leo, if we know that in his keyboard he struggles with processing long sentences or understanding vowels, then we can use that information to tailor the WHO workshop to match some of those auditory skills. Now, I'm not saying that this research is going to change the world of autism, but if we can start grouping kids based on the neurological properties, then maybe we can match them to more targeted solutions that actually fulfill their needs. So that one day, regardless of what keys work or don't work on your keyboard, every child can type their own stories. Thank you.
So while the judges take some notes, we will give you a few anecdotes about our presenters. And so Gabrielle is actually a huge patient advocate, which we can see through his very empathic energy. And outside of the lab, when Gabrielle is not helping children on the autism spectrum disorder, he loves music and salsa dancing on the weekends, which I can relate.
And it's really beautiful to see how there are these research components, tiny efforts which really help in solving out these issues. It's really beautiful and also like heartwarming to listen to these talks.
Especially when we think about all of these patients who have a range of disorders. I had the opportunity to talk with patients, and they actually said that having some empathetic researcher with them was very beneficial for them, as much as the research almost.
Indeed. With that, let's move on to our second presenter for the evening. We have Michael Cunningham on stage, a PhD student in the Department of Chemistry. His talk is titled, The Art of Chemical Disguise, Engineering CRISPR to Get Behind Enemy Lines.
DNA is the code of life. A code made up of just 4 letters, repeated over 3 billion times, but just a single error can cause life-changing, incurable disease. Diseases like Huntington's, sickle cell, and cystic fibrosis. 1 in 100 people are born with a single gene disorder. What if we could rewrite their code? Enter CRISPR, nature's gene editor. Found in bacteria, CRISPR precisely edits DNA using just 2 components: Cas, an enzyme that cuts DNA, and CRISPR RNA, which I'll call Chris. Think of Cas as a scissors, while Chris is the hand that guides it. See, like DNA, RNA also has 4 letters, and by changing the order of these letters in Chris's code, I can tell him where in DNA to bind, and Cas will cut it. This allows us to program CRISPR to target any gene in our DNA, including those that cause disease. Now, this doesn't provide an immediate cure. To be used in therapeutics, CRISPR needs to work in human cells, but our bodies contain enzymes called nucleases which break down any RNA they encounter, including Chris. This is where my research comes in. Picture nucleases as security guards to the cell, a downtown bar, and Chris as Cas's wingman. To help Cas find their DNA match, Chris needs to get inside. Now, personally, I just use a fake ID, but Chris, he needs a disguise. By chemically modifying Chris's structure, adding fluorine or extra carbon atoms to specific letters in his code, I can give him a hat or a trench coat, and this lets him walk past the security guards unrecognized and untouched. The tricky part is that Cas still needs to recognize Chris for them to edit DNA, and so this disguise needs to be extremely precise. To design it, I program Chris to target a gene in cells that produces a green fluorescent protein. If Cas can recognize Chris, then they'll cut this gene, and the cells will no longer produce the protein. If not, the cells will glow. This allows me to quantitatively measure gene editing just by looking at how fluorescent the cells are under the microscope. Over the last 2 years, I've used these experiments to modify 90% of the CRISPR RNA, letting it slip past nucleases but still edit DNA. We're now patenting this design and beginning tests in mice, changing Chris's code to target genes that actually cause disease. In the time I've been speaking, 10 children were born with a single gene disorder. If successful, my research will be used to develop therapeutics that could offer them a cure, giving these children and countless others the chance at a life that's not dictated by their DNA. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really glad I came to the 3MT today because it's really cool to see that you can actually speak about your research by using cartoons. That's so cool. And a fun fact about Michael, he was here at McGill as an exchange student while he was doing his undergraduate back in Ireland. And he loved it so much that he decided to come back and pursue a PhD at McGill. Also, he is an investment associate who helps student-led startups. So any of you here in the audience, if you're planning to have a startup, probably you should go talk to him after.
So I don't know if any of you are familiar with biology, but this technology of CRISPRs has actually been awarded with 2 Nobel Prizes to 2 women scientists who has been working very hard on it. And it opens some brand new perspective into curing a range of disorders and for doing further research. So I'm gonna now call our next presenter. Et donc notre prochain participant va présenter en français. Et il s'agit de Charlotte Ouimet, étudiante au doctorat en médecine expérimentale. Sa présentation s'intitule « Les essais cliniques de phase 2 en oncologie, où mènent les routes ?»
Vous avez un cancer. Vous essayez tous les traitements possibles, mais rien ne fonctionne. Il vous reste une dernière option, un essai clinique. Une fois que vous vous demandez si c'est l'option à poursuivre, vous n'avez aucune réponse. Vous êtes maintenant à la croisée des chemins, sans repère. Voici la réalité de nombreux patients atteints du cancer. À court d'options, ils peuvent participer à des essais cliniques, des études pour tester des traitements expérimentaux. Mais quand ils demandent leur chance de succès, ils se font dire qu'ils pourraient ou ne pourraient pas en bénéficier. C'est comme demander la météo et se faire dire qu'il va peut-être pleuvoir ou non. On n'accepterait jamais cette réponse pour la météo. Alors pourquoi l'accepterons-nous en recherche clinique? Il existe 3 phases d'essai clinique. La phase 1 établit la dose sécuritaire. La phase 2 évalue si un traitement expérimental pourrait fonctionner. Et la phase 3 le compare au standard. En oncologie, la phase 2 est la plus courante, mais aussi la plus incertaine. Voilà pourquoi je cherche à mieux comprendre les risques et les bénéfices de la phase 2. Pour faire ça, j'ai évalué les résultats de 500 essais cliniques, incluant plus de 25 000 patients. Et, à l'aide de statistiques, j'ai rassemblé tous les résultats ensemble pour déduire la probabilité de succès individuel. J'ai trouvé qu'un patient sur 6 reçoit un traitement expérimental en phase 2 qui sera éventuellement approuvé. Ça semble encourageant, non? Pas exactement. Pensez-y. Lorsqu'un docteur vous prescrit un médicament, vos chances de recevoir un traitement approuvé sont de 100%, bien plus que 1 sur 6. Et il ne faut pas oublier les risques. J'ai trouvé qu'un tiers des patients en phase 2 subissent des effets secondaires graves, nécessitant une hospitalisation. Alors, 16% de chances de recevoir un médicament qui fonctionne en phase 2, accompagné de 30% de chances de subir un effet secondaire grave. Les patients méritent de le savoir. Nous devons nous assurer que les patients sachent plus précisément à quoi s'attendre avant de participer aux essais cliniques. Parce que, à la croisée des chemins, c'est aux patients de juger si les chances qu'un essai mène à un traitement sont favorables pour eux ou gaspillent le temps précieux qui leur reste. Merci.
Alors, quelques petites anecdotes à propos de Charlotte, qui aime particulièrement skier, voyager et le grand air. Et donc, alors, c'est encore mieux si on peut mettre le voyage et le ski ensemble. Ensuite, Charlotte aime également, comme beaucoup d'entre nous, je pense, profiter des nombreux festivals qu'offre Montréal l'été. Et en cette fin d'hiver, je pense que certains d'entre nous ont hâte de profiter de toutes les belles activités qu'offre la ville. Alors quelque chose qui me marque particulièrement avec ces présentations, c'est à quel point le parcours des personnes qui souffrent du cancer peut être difficile. Et c'est une maladie qui touche tellement de personnes que voilà, je suis à peu près certaine qu'un certain nombre d'entre nous qui nous regardent aujourd'hui souffrent du cancer ou connaissent quelqu'un qui en souffre. Et donc voilà, on vous envoie tout notre soutien. Et ça fait plaisir de voir que la recherche continue, que les efforts s'intensifient et que des milliers de chercheurs dans le monde entier continuent à travailler pour trouver des traitements.
And with that, onto the stage next, we have our presenter, Zoe Chapman. She is an MSc student in the Department of Psychiatry. Her presentation today is titled, Reducing Youth Mortality.
Introduce you to Sam, who had cancer, and Jamie, who has asthma. Recently, Sam received the incredible news that their cancer is gone, and Jamie is managing their asthma very well. But what if I told you that despite their improved health, Jamie and Sam's lives may still be cut short due to an even greater danger? According to Statistics Canada, suicide was the second leading cause of death among youth aged 10 to 24 in 2023. Studies also show that youth with cancer and asthma are twice as likely to die by suicide than their peers, as they tend to experience worse mental health due to their poor physical health. It is clear that suicide is far too common among youth, so our lab is dedicated to finding factors that may lead youth to think about, attempt, or even die by suicide. More specifically, my research looks at the risk of suicide among individuals who are diagnosed with a medical condition during childhood. We are analyzing data from a study conducted in Quebec, which followed approximately 2,000 children since birth. At the beginning of the study, parents reported their children's diagnosed medical conditions at various points, whereas the children themselves reported their suicidal thoughts and behaviors later on. With this data, we can then compare youth with a medical condition, like cancer and asthma, to youth without these conditions, the control group, to determine whether youth with medical conditions are more likely to be suicidal. While there are studies on this topic, most look at the medical condition and the suicidal thoughts and behaviors once at the same time. This is important to note because, as we all know, our lives and emotions are constantly changing. So, if we only look at this relationship once, such as when they are happy at age 20, we wouldn't capture the whole story and would miss out on the fact that they were unhappy throughout their adolescence and the rest of their young adulthood. Our study is unique because it looks at this relationship over time, longitudinally, beginning when the children are 5 months old, all the way until they're 25 years old. We'll also be looking at over 20 unique medical conditions to determine which youth with which illnesses are more likely to be suicidal. With the findings from this study, we can inform doctors of youth who are more vulnerable to suicide so that we can treat their physical and mental health. As a result, suicide among Canadian youth could be significantly reduced. Now, in the case of Jamie and Sam, we would not only treat their cancer and asthma, but also ensure they remain mentally healthy and enjoy the rest of their very long lives. Thank you.
It's indeed very interesting, at the same time surprising to see how long the effects of physical health can last on your mental health, indeed, from these research. And for Zoe, we would like to give a huge shout out to all of you watching live stream from Prince Edward Island, because according to what she told us, she told her mom, and now the entire city knows. So. And I completely get you, because that is exactly what my mom would have been done too. So a huge hi to everyone watching live stream from Prince Edward Island.
It's very impressive sometimes to see all the people around the world sometimes who are gathering to watch online this 3MT, and I didn't realize the first time that some people would watch us from so far. which is very encouraging for our participants. So our next presenter is Chiao, a PhD student in food science and agricultural chemistry. Her presentation will be about rapid detection of pesticides on apple surface.
When you pick up shiny apples at the grocery store, do you ever worry about the pesticide residues on them? Pesticides are widely used to protect those fruits from fungal diseases and pests. Most pesticides will degrade over time, but some of them remain on the fruits. When we eat them, pesticides may get into our bodies, and over time lead to some health issues like headache, diarrhea, fatigue, and even cancer. To keep our fruits safe, it's essential to detect those pesticides before we eat them. We do have some detection methods in place, but some people can still get sick from the pesticides in our fruit. Why is that? Well, the current methods are reliable, but they're also slow, expensive, and need large equipment and sample preparation. To address this challenge, my research aims to develop a simple, rapid, non-destructive method to detect those pesticides on apples using Raman spectroscopy. So what is Raman spectroscopy? It's a technique that provides us the structural information of pesticides, just like a fingerprint. Each person has unique Raman spectrum fingerprint for personal identification. Each pesticide has a unique Raman spectrum for chemical identification. But there is one challenge. Raman signals are quite weak. This makes it difficult to detect those trace amounts of pesticides on apples. So I developed a magic paper that can enhance the Raman signals of the trace pesticides. Why do I call it magic paper? Because it allows the fast sample collection. In just 2 seconds, I can use to wipe the pesticides showing green on apples. It can also detect the low levels of pesticides. This magic paper has more golden nanoparticles showing blue that can enhance the Raman signals of the trace pesticides. And this technique provides fast results. By using this magic paper, I can tell you what pesticides are on your apple in just 8 minutes. The best part, I can bring this more portable device and the magic paper to anywhere I want, and I can detect pesticides at any grocery store in Montreal. And this is just the beginning. My method isn't just for apples. It can be extended to detect pesticides in other fruits and even vegetables. Eventually, I hope that this could improve the efficiency of the pesticide monitoring in food industry and ensure that we all can have safe fruits and vegetables to eat. Thanks.
A magic paper to detect pesticide? I would love having that when I do my groceries.
Exactly. Don't be surprised if you see us around carrying the portable Raman spectrometer, because I want to know what pesticides go inside.
So actually, Lee grew up in China, and she came especially in Montreal in 2021 to follow her passion for food sciences. And so outside of the lab, when she's not working, she likes playing tennis and badminton.
We invite to the stage next our presenter for the evening, Laurianne Bastien. She is a PhD student in educational psychology, and her presentation today is titled, From Knowledge to Action, Making Stress Management Strategies Stick.
Raise your hand if you've ever been overwhelmed by your to-do list. Looking around the room, it's clear that stress impacts a lot of us, but why do we care so much about it? Well, stress increases our risk of heart disease, depression, and burnout. And yet, over 70% of university students experience overwhelming stress. So here's the catch. We've been studying stress for decades, but why haven't we found a hack to better manage it? There's a ton of resources out there, apps, websites, workshops. Yet, how many of us have downloaded an app, we use it once, and then we forget about it, or we just don't have time? So the problem, it's not finding the right strategies, but it's getting people to use them. My research looks at how can I bridge this gap between knowledge and action. In a first study, I recruited over 300 university students. I gave them the exact same strategies, just presented in different formats. Some got a workshop, others an infographic, and some a video. And then I looked at, over the course of 6 weeks, which format was most effective and which one would students actually use. My results showed that students who got either a video or an infographic experienced an increase in their wellness and coping faster than those in the workshop group. Think about that for a second. What this tells us is that it's not just what we're sharing with students, but really how we're sharing those strategies. Now, that's a great first step, but what about in the long term? And that's where my study 2 comes in, where I'll be looking at, over the course of 6 months, how can I get students to build a habit of using stress management, whether through weekly reminders, peer workshops, or group accountability. Because the reality is, we already know how to manage our stress, but the real challenge, it's making it stick. My research demonstrates that cracking the code on stress management is not just about what we're sharing with students, but really how we're providing those strategies. Because let's be honest, the best stress management hack, it's one you'll actually use. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurianne. I wish I had talked to her before I started my PhD, because I get too stressed that I go to stress management hacks and then get too stressed about using them. And seeing the number of hands which went up, I'm sure I'm not alone in this. So, outside of the lab.
I definitely plead guilty as well. So, if any of you did not raise your hand, please talk to me at the end of this competition.
Some tips. Outside of the lab, if she's not working, she loves being by herself, read a book with a cup of tea on a peaceful corner, and I get that feeling you need it after the PhD.
Okay, so notre prochain participant est Maria Nicole Palacio Prada, qui effectue un doctorat dans le programme intégré en neurosciences. Sa présentation porte sur la cocaïne et la mélodie de l'ADN.
De Whitney Houston. J'adorais sa chanson I Will Always Love You, mais je ne l'ai jamais écoutée en concert parce que Whitney est morte, noyée, après avoir consommé de la cocaïne. Selon l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, plus de 3 millions de personnes sont décédées à cause d'alcool et des drogues en une seule année. Malgré l'importance de ces problèmes, il est difficile de les comprendre. Même si certains d'entre nous ont essayé de l'alcool, des drogues, pas tout le monde ici développera une addiction. Qui deviendra dépendant? Moi? Vous? Une amie? À mon avis, la pièce manquante du puzzle se trouve dans la interaction des gènes avec l'environnement. Supposons que vos gènes, votre ADN, sont les notes d'une chanson que vous imprimez. Quand la feuille est lisse, vous pouvez tout chanter. Mais si vous écrasez une partie de la feuille, vous liriez seulement quelques mots et la chanson serait bien différente. Par exemple, la différence entre « je t'aime plus » et « je ne t'aime plus » s'agit d'un seul mot, mais des heures de thérapie de couple. De façon similaire, l'environnement, nos expériences peuvent changer la chanson de l'ADN en contrôlant quels mots sont lus. En effet, il y a des protéines dans nos cellules qui déterminent quelles parties de notre ADN sont lisibles. J'ai étudié une de ces protéines, qui s'appelle HDAC, pendant des années. Dans notre métaphore, cette protéine HDAC froissera la feuille pour contrôler quelles parties ne seront pas exprimées. Imaginez comment aurait été la chanson de l'ADN de Whitney Houston s'il n'avait pas souffert de trauma ou consommé des drogues. Ça nous mène à la question principale. Est-ce que la cocaïne pourrait changer la quantité de cette protéine et donc modifier la mélodie de notre ADN? Grâce aux scanners cérébraux, nous prenons des images de la distribution de cette protéine pour comparer les cerveaux des personnes dépendantes à la cocaïne, des participants qui en consomment occasionnellement et d'un groupe contrôle qui n'a jamais utilisé cette drogue. D'après nos résultats préliminaires, une consommation récente et fréquente de cocaïne pourrait être liée au niveau plus élevé de cette protéine. Ça veut dire qu'il est possible que la cocaïne ait la capacité d'altérer la chanson de notre ADN dans certaines régions cérébrales, ce qui pourrait affecter l'apprentissage ou expliquer pourquoi les toxicomanies sont si difficiles de traiter. Toutefois, ce sont des données préliminaires, alors je suis en train d'analyser les scanners cérébraux du nombre plus grand de volontaires. D'ailleurs, je vérifie aussi les tissus cérébraux des personnes décédées pour voir s'il y a des changements à cause de surdose. Je veux comprendre mieux les toxicomanies pour améliorer leur prévention et traitement. De cette façon, ce chiffre de 3 millions de décès annuels commencera à diminuer et nous aurons l'opportunité d'entendre leur chanson de l'ADN. Merci.
Alors, je suis toujours parfois très impressionnée par certaines statistiques. 3 millions de personnes qui décèdent chaque année de la cocaïne. Je trouve ça extrêmement impressionnant. Et c'est fou aussi de voir à quel point nous ne sommes pas égaux face à la consommation de drogue et de substances du fait de la génétique. Donc, c'est toujours très intéressant d'avoir ce genre de présentation qui vulgarise ce genre de recherche. Alors, quelques mots sur Maria-Nicole. Donc, en dehors du laboratoire, sa passion est l'écriture créative de livres de fantasy. Et elle écrit d'ailleurs actuellement une saga en plusieurs langues, ce que je trouve extrêmement impressionnant quand on sait à quel point c'est pas toujours facile d'écrire et de choisir les bons mots dans sa propre langue. Elle a aussi été cofondatrice d'un groupe pendant la pandémie qui a permis de lutter contre la désinformation en biologie qui a été assez importante durant cette période. Et maintenant, nous allons pouvoir accueillir le prochain candidat.
Moving on to our next presenter for the evening, we invite to the stage Keziah brothers. She is pursuing her master's in political science, and her talk today is titled, When Solutions Exist, but Policy Resists.
When you're walking through downtown Montreal and you see someone on the sidewalk sleeping, what thoughts come to your mind? Do you assume for even a second that they're in that position because of their own personal failings? In any Canadian city, this is very common. But does it have to be? What if I told you there has been a significant amount of research produced that propose policy options that would radically reduce the amount of poverty in Canada? These solutions range from a more progressive tax system, increased investments in affordable housing, and even guaranteed basic income programs. Many of these solutions have been tested and shown to be highly effective for poverty reduction, and many of them cost less than poverty itself. Now, despite this, these solutions have struggled to find their way into government policy. The problem is not that we lack solutions, but that we lack action on these solutions. The question I wrestle with in my research is, why? Rather than focus on the many political and economic arguments against these solutions, my research focuses on a deeper level of policy development, the influence of ideas. Specifically, I study the common idea that we live in a meritocracy, meaning we live in a society where anyone can achieve social and economic success with hard work and a bit of talent. My main concern is how the idea of meritocracy influences the way we think about and therefore govern poverty. Have you ever heard the phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work? The irony of this is that none of us can actually pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Go ahead, try it later. Have any of us gotten to where we are completely on our own? Probably not. Yet, this is the essence of meritocracy. Those who are successful deserve their success, but those who aren't successful don't deserve too much help. To examine whether the idea of meritocracy negatively impacts poverty policy, I'm conducting a case study of my home province, Manitoba. I've gathered 15 years worth of data on poverty reduction, including debate transcripts and policy plans. I'm doing a frame analysis by feeding the data that I've collected through a coding software that I will program to detect words and phrases rooted in meritocracy. Through this process, I can track how the idea of meritocracy is used as the frame through which poverty is understood, and therefore how it influences which policies are and are not adopted. Ultimately, my research aims to provide a link for a bridge with which we can eventually close the gap between effective poverty reduction strategies and policy, all with the goal that one day, this will no longer be normal in Canada.
It's very intriguing to see how something as this, which we would be walking by on our way to university or back home every day, can make us think and keep pondering about the distance between policy making and execution. And something about Keziah is that she's really patient because she is right now on a mission to grow an avocado tree from an avocado pit, and she's hoping that it bears fruits in 20 years. And so we made a little pact while we were back in the green room that we'll probably all reconvene and have a little reunion with the avocados 20 years later.
So our next presenter is Cece Hess, a PhD student in experimental medicine. Her presentation is entitled "The Signal Chase to Halt Anorexia in Cancer."
Believe it or not all people who die of cancer actually die of cancer. More than 30% dies due to a massive unstoppable drop in their body weight. Although the process is not fully understood, there is one thing we know. As long as our bodies keep receiving a good amount of nutrients, the weight loss can be slow, and the chances for receiving just enough time to have medications to eradicate it are significantly higher. However, maintaining a good food consumption in cancer is not that simple. You see, people with no intention progressively limit how much they eat. They experience what we call loss of appetite, or anorexia. And anorexia doesn't come alone. It comes with nausea, pain, discomfort, and makes eating unmotivating almost permanently. Now, biologically in cancer, the major trigger of anorexia is a molecule intensely produced by tumors called growth differentiation factor 15, or GDF15. So GDF15, released by the tumors, travels in the bloodstream until reaching a specific place in the brain, which is right here, at the very basis of our brain, the brainstem. Thanks to the first part of my research, we are certain that this is the only place in the body that has specialized neurons with GDF15 receptors, something like the magic lock, for which GDF15 is the key. And once the lock is open, it unleashes a signal that travels from these neurons to other neurons to other neurons and finally results in anorexia. My job now is to answer this question: where these receptor neurons send the signal to? For this, I use mouse models, since mice and humans have similar nervous systems. I've found that at least 3 different groups of receptor neurons are the initiators of anorexia. And now I plan to use a virus that is able to follow neuronal signals, which can be designed specifically to recognize and go inside our receptor neurons and jump to those which they make contact with after GDF15 signal starts. So, by injecting this virus into the brainstem and injecting GDF15 through the skin, I can stimulate the virus to jump from the receptor neurons to the next, once GDF15 reaches them in the brainstem. And as the virus spreads, it will cause no damage, but it will cause fluorescence in all the cells it touches, which then I can inspect under a microscope. My research will show GDF15 signal's trajectory and hopefully those parts where it is the safest to be halted to stop anorexia. So we can give back to people with cancer the pleasure and joy of eating, and maybe the pleasure and joy of living. Thank you.
I can't imagine being so impacted by a treatment at the point like me. I love eating, could not enjoy my favorite food.
Something like the influence of such a small molecules in so many activities and the way it controls neurons, it's always so intriguing.
So to cope with the lab stress, Cece does a lot of meditation and exercise, which is quite good for many of us who are experimenting stress in the lab. And she also does salsa dancing. So I think we have some good basis here to form a group.
We now welcome to the stage our next presenter for the evening, Rachana Morti, a PhD student in the Department of Civil Engineering. Her presentation is titled, Forever Chemicals, Finally Exposed.
Meet Amara Strad, a young girl from Oakdale, Minnesota. When she was just 15, she was diagnosed with a rare form of liver cancer, which took her life 2 days before her 21st birthday. Amara's hometown had shockingly higher rates of cancer. When the town's water was tested, it revealed alarmingly high levels of a toxic group of chemicals, PFAS. This is not just a problem in Oakdale. In fact, 98% of Canadians have PFAS in their blood right now, and you and I are unknowingly breathing and drinking these dangerous chemicals every day. PFAS, commonly known as forever chemicals due to their persistence, are synthetic chemicals that were designed to resist oil, water, and heat, and are used in everyday items like non-stick cookware and food packaging. But don't panic. We don't have enough evidence to know if they are dangerous in trace amounts. Yet, to be safe, many countries are now banning PFAS. But there's a catch. We can only ban what we can detect. And current technology can only detect small PFAS molecules. But 80% of PFAS are large and complex. That's where my research comes in. PFAS is detected using mass spectrometry. It's a technique that identifies chemicals based on their mass and structure. But it is limited to small molecules, which means large PFAS cannot be analyzed by this technique. I developed a novel solution to this problem. My idea is to use pyrolysis. It's a technique that breaks down large and complex molecules using very high temperatures. My method begins by carefully deconstructing unknown large PFAS into small fragments without destructing them. I achieve this by controlling the pyrolysis conditions like temperature, pressure, and gas flow. Once the fragments are small enough, they are detected using existing mass spectrometry techniques. After identifying these small fragments, I piece them back together, just like solving a jigsaw puzzle to know the original PFAS compound. Using these identified fragments, I am building the first of its kind fragment library for large PFAS, which will be publicly available to researchers and regulators worldwide. With the new technique and library, we can study both small and large PFAS for the first time. This means we can finally uncover the full extent of PFAS contamination, push for stronger policies, and work towards a future free from PFAS. Let's make sure we don't lose another Amara.
Thank you, Rachana. I'm really glad that I came for this talk, especially because it's one thing to be able to say that, okay, this is harmful, and then we have stronger policies, and then it's the other thing to sort of uncover the hidden mysteries behind these chemicals which might be causing harm. And we have a little celebrity in the house because Rachana was a TV anchor in a kids channel called Chutti TV in India for about 10 years, hosting several shows, including certain ones like Mad Scientists, which are science-based. Yeah.
So our next presenter, Trey Chernov, does a Master of Sciences in Medical Radiation Physics. His presentation is about predicting pain in cancer images.
I want you to imagine a situation. Say a friend wants to show you a funny video. Maybe someone falls off a ladder, busts up their knee, maybe there's a minor fender bender. Depending on the context of the video, you might react with a chuckle, or maybe a wince. Ooh. If it's a severe enough fall, you might even want to look away and think to yourself, oof, that looks painful. But what if I asked you to take that thinking, that intuition, and apply it to medical imaging? If I showed you an X-ray of a badly broken arm, again, it's pretty easy to look at that and think to yourself, oof, that looks painful. But what if I asked you to go even further, to imagine an image of a tumor or a cancerous lesion? It gets a little bit trickier, but that sort of image is exactly what we have in the middle of the slide here. Doctors will encounter these sorts of images in their clinical day-to-day. They might be able to see the lesion, draw a little circle around it, and say, that right there, that's a lesion. But from these images alone, they might not be able to distinguish painful lesions from painless ones. Therefore, our lab wanted to build a model that could use additional data to make this distinction. If we could do that, it would lead not just to better pain management for the patients, but it would lay a foundation that would allow us to predict when they would experience this pain and take steps to prevent it. Now, in all of that, I said we would use additional data, but what exactly is this additional data, and where does it come from? Well, most of us have been to a doctor at some point in our lives, and while we're there, they might poke us and prod us and say things like, does it hurt when you do this? Or does it hurt when I press here? Then they might walk over to their computer, type out a little note, and aha, that right there is our additional data. We can take the keywords from those doctor's notes related to patient pain and correlate them to our medical images. And that's not all. We can correlate them to specific features of the tumors themselves. Things like, is the tumor round or blobby, big or small? Are some parts more dense than others? We could even use AI to extract features that us mere mortals might not even be able to comprehend. And so, with all that said, we still got to answer the big question, why should we care? Well, I want to emphasize that my data set consisted only of those patients that are palliative metastatic spinal cancer patients. So we're not trying to cure the cancer. We're trying to alleviate their symptoms, pain, so that they are empowered to spend the time they have left as meaningfully as possible, be that with family, friends, or however they wish. So, with all that said, I don't just want to be able to look at these types of images and say, oof, that looks painful. I want to say, that's going to be painful, so let's do something about it. Thank you.
And it looks very painful indeed when we look at the image of the arm. So it's actually also amazing to think that thanks to this work, like one day we could predict where the pain is going to appear. And knowing a lot of people with back pain, I can't imagine the struggle or people in palliative care that has to suffer from these pains. So it's very beautiful work. A few anecdotes about Trey. So when Trey is not analyzing scans, which probably takes a lot of work, he likes to play curling, guitar, and piano. And he actually came to Montreal for his studies, but has been growing up in Regina.
Pito. He's a PhD student in Department of Psychology, and his talk today is titled, Can Minority Faces Bias Our Perceptions of Diversity?
Everything you know about diversity is wrong, and in 3 minutes, I'll show you exactly why. Let's take a look at the left side of the screen. What do y'all see? A black sheep, exactly. Why is that? As human beings, our brains latch onto things that look different. In psychology, we call this the salience bias. Things that stand out catch our attention. Let's take this over to the workplace. Let's look at the right side of the screen. What do y'all see? Seems like a pretty diverse company profile, right? But is it? Let's actually count. There's 1, 2, 3 minorities in this company out of 16 workers. Now, things don't look so great. What if I told you that in the same way that that black sheep caught your attention, because of the salience bias, we're actually way worse than we think at estimating racial diversity? And that brings me to my research, where I actually gave 4,000 participants a very similar paradigm as what I just showed you just now. I showed my participants one of 18 organizational profiles, and then I asked them, how much diversity do you see in this company? I found that in low diversity companies, participants were seeing significantly more racial diversity when seeing minority faces compared to when seeing just the numbers. In fact, this company over here, according to my preliminary data, half of you all would actually overestimate the amount of racial diversity in this company. Half. That's a lot of people. Why care about this stuff? Why care about the way we perceive diversity? Imagine you are a hiring manager at one of these companies, and you overestimated the amount of racial diversity in your company. And because you think there's enough diversity, you're also less likely to hire more racial minorities. In fact, my research shows that our diversity perceptions directly shape our support for diversity promoting policies. What's even more important, though, is that my research is showing that diversity is not objective. It's a social perception. It's what we see with our eyes and what we interpret with our minds. And because diversity is a perception, it's also shaped by our own experiences and our own biases. I'll leave you all with this. When y'all go home tonight, look at your faculty websites and ask yourself, is my faculty actually diverse, or does it look diverse? Because as we've seen today with the salience bias, we can't always trust our diversity perceptions since they're not always accurate. And we can't change problems that we can't see clearly. So I hope that my research inspires you all to build environments that don't just look diverse, but actually are diverse. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm really glad that there are studies like this happening because often we don't realize that where we come from or how we have been brought up can really affect the way that we perceive these things. And a bit about Jeffrey. If he's not in lab or if he's not in doing participant recruitment and all of those studies, he loves doing improvs. So he does that outside academia. At the same time, he is also really proud of his talent of whistling with his teeth. So if you're interested, go meet him after our presentations.
Et donc notre prochain participant est Daniel Mendelssohn, étudiant au doctorat dans le programme combiné en médecine et recherche en neurosciences. Sa présentation s'intitule « Épilepsie réfractaire aux médicaments, l'imagerie de précision ».
L'épilepsie. Imaginez si la nuit vous êtes endormi et soudainement vous vous réveillez. Un tic dans le visage, votre visage est engourdi. Vous bavez, difficile d'avaler. Vous tremblez sans cesse. Vous vivez une crise épileptique. C'est 1% de la population qui vit de telles crises. Pour un tiers de ces patients, il n'y a aucun médicament qui arrive à contrôler adéquatement les crises épileptiques. Dans ces cas, les meilleurs traitements, ce sont des interventions chirurgicales. On se comprend. Pour arriver à une chirurgie, une neurochirurgie, il faut connaître précisément où intervenir. L'imagerie à résonance magnétique, vous le connaissez sûrement comme l'IRM, est l'une des méthodes les plus importantes qui nous permettent d'identifier des anomalies dans le cerveau. Dans l'épilepsie, malheureusement, il y a de nombreux patients, voire la moitié des patients, pour qui nous n'identifions aucune anomalie sur ces images cliniques. Mon projet de recherche a 2 grands axes. Premièrement, c'est d'améliorer la qualité des images cliniques d'IRM. Pour y faire, nous utilisons une base de données avec 2 images d'IRM pour le même patient. Des images cliniques avec une moyenne résolution et des images de recherche. En recherche, nous avons accès à des scanners puissants qui nous permettent des résolutions et des qualités d'image meilleures. Mais ce n'est pas tout le monde, ce n'est pas chaque patient qui a accès à tel scanner. Donc, avec nos 2 images, nous pourrons créer des algorithmes informatiques qui nous permettront d'améliorer la qualité des images cliniques pour rejoindre la résolution et la qualité qu'on retrouverait en recherche, sans toutefois devoir rentrer dans le scanner de recherche. Cette augmentation de qualité d'image d'IRM clinique nous permettra d'identifier plus fiablement, plus précisément les anomalies dans l'épilepsie. Dans mon 2e axe de recherche, nous travaillons avec des neurochirurgiens pour étudier sous le microscope des tissus enlevés lors de neurochirurgie pour l'épilepsie. Cet axe nous permettra d'intégrer ce qu'on voit sous le microscope avec ce qu'on voit sur les images cliniques. Cela nous permettra de mieux interpréter de manière biologique ce qu'on voit sur les anomalies cliniques. Ultimement, les 2 axes et ce projet de recherche permettra un meilleur accès à des traitements chirurgicaux validés et existants pour des personnes atteintes d'épilepsie réfractaires aux médicaments. Ultimement, si on se lève la nuit, ça ne devrait pas être à cause d'une crise épileptique, mais peut-être à cause d'un déneigement. Merci.
Alors, j'aurais pas pensé dire ça un jour, mais je suis d'accord avec le fait qu'on mérite tous d'être réveillés par une déneigeuse plutôt que par une crise d'épilepsie. Et maintenant, je me sens particulièrement chanceuse de mes hivers montréalais. Alors voilà, quelques petites anecdotes à propos de Daniel, qui aime beaucoup la cuisine et le voyage. Et c'est justement en Australie, le pays fondateur de ma thèse en 180 secondes, 3MT en anglais, qu'il a appris à cuisiner de délicieux currys, ce qui m'ouvre l'appétit. Il aime également beaucoup le contact clinique avec les patients. Et nous allons donc être prêts à accueillir notre dernier participant.
We welcome to the stage next our final presenter for the evening, Lynn. She is a PhD student in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and her talk today is titled, Don't Break My Heart Again.
In a healthy heart, blood will flow through our arteries in an unobstructed way. However, due to unhealthy lifestyles and high cholesterol levels, fatty substances and plaque can start accumulating in our arteries over time. This can lead to a reduced blood flow to the heart, and in a worst-case scenario, it could even lead to a life-threatening heart attack. The good news is that there's treatment for this. Every year, over 2 million stents are implanted around the world. Stents are tiny cylinders that are fit around the balloon, inserted in the artery, and expanded once they reach the location that needs treatment. A fully healed stent will have opened up the artery, and the blood will flow normally again. The bad news is that in around 5% of all interventions, complications can arise. Depending on the severity, the inflamed stents may even need to be treated in a second surgery, which is quite invasive and comes with a high risk. But what if I told you that there may be a way to get it right the first time? In my PhD, I'm developing a solution which will prevent these complications from arising, or stop them before they become problematic. We propose to coat the stent with carbon nanotubes, the little tubes imaged on the bottom right, and we will soak this carbon nanotube coating with medication. To achieve this, we first developed an electrochemical process which allows us to form these highly entangled carbon nanotube coatings on the surface of the stent. We then use a high-energy laser to vaporize a magnet so that we can decorate the carbon nanotubes with tiny magnetic particles that can react to an external field. So once a magnetic field is applied, these little particles, and in return the carbon nanotube coating itself, can respond and release the drugs that are captured within it. This means that during a checkup after surgery, if a physician sees an onset of inflammation, they can trigger drug release on demand from the implanted stent by applying the magnetic field. That way, complications can be treated locally without the need for a second surgery. Our results on the coating synthesis were published last year, and we have another publication on the way where we showcase a proof of concept of this on-demand drug release. With this project, we hope to improve the stenting procedure to make sure that as many patients as possible experience successful treatments and do not see their hearts broken again. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. It's very surprising. At the same time, I'm happy that research such as solutions to heart attack is happening in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I would never have imagined. And now, a few things about Lynn. She describes herself to be here in McGill for a very long time because she did her undergrad, master's, and now a PhD in topics she loves. And English is her fourth language, which means she speaks French, German, and Luxembourg.
Donc nous allons désormais remercier chaleureusement tous nos participants et allons inviter nos juges à quitter la salle afin de délibérer.
Thank you so much to all our presenters, and now judges will be moving on with the deliberation. At the same time, we are going to open the voting for People's Choice Award.
Préparez-vous à voter pour le prix du public. Alors, afin de voter pour votre participant préféré, vous pouvez utiliser le lien fourni dans la description de la vidéo YouTube si vous nous suivez en ligne, ou bien utiliser le QR code qui apparaît ici à l'écran. Donc, grâce à ce QR code ou au lien dans la description, vous pourrez voter pour votre candidat préféré qui recevra le prix du choix du public.
I think we understood the assignment by now, seeing the way everyone has started voting. But for those who are in this room right now, you can use the QR code to vote for your favorite presenter of the day. And in case if you're watching us on YouTube live stream, there would be a link in the YouTube description which you can use to vote.
I thought it was not. I thought the QR code was not working. I just was like, no, it's not working. Oh, the QR code is not working. The QR code works, but the website is not working. The website is not working. Okay. So what I would advise you, could you connect to the YouTube video and click on the link on the description? I don't know if our online spectators are having issues right now.
We'll probably give it a couple of minutes while our technical team sort it out. At the same time, let's now open the floor for questions from the audience. So for that, I request all the 14 finalists to be on the stage right now.
will try to make everyone fit.
There's room.
Yeah, maybe if some of you... Okay, you can make an arc here. You can come up to there so everybody can see you.
So we have a mic right in the middle of the room. So if you have any question, you can walk up to that mic and then ask a question. And when you're asking, please indicate as to which participant the question is to.
So I actually have a question. What gave you the desire to come here, present your research? We all know that it's very difficult to make such research accessible to a broad audience. What gave you this envy to share your research to a general audience?
The courage.
Donc, je vais répondre en français. J'ai deux réponses et je remercie Papa qui est ici aujourd'hui parce que dans un de mes premiers projets de recherche, ça date quand même de quelques années, j'ai demandé à mon père de relire ce que j'ai écrit. Est-ce que c'est compréhensible? As-tu des commentaires, tout ça? Il me dit, tu sais, je l'ai lu, ça me semble excellent, mais j'ai aucune idée, ça veut dire quoi? C'est quoi ce mot-là? Tu sais, tout ça. Et j'ai réalisé à quel point c'est facile de rentrer dans notre bulle où on commence à parler une langue vraiment avec nos collègues, on se comprend, mais une fois qu'on sort de cette bulle, tout est perdu. Et donc, je pense que c'est une magnifique opportunité justement de pratiquer ce muscle-là, de partager ouvertement de manière très... sans technicalité, voilà, mes projets de recherche pour que ça soit accessible.
Yeah, I guess in my case, I love so much what I do that I would just love for everybody else to love what I do as much as I do. So this is a nice way to reach people in ways like emotional, just like I feel when I think of my research. So yes, that's why.
What I think is so cool about 3MT is the fact that there's one statistic that haunts us all as scientists, and it's the fact that like of all the 7 billion people in the world, there's like maybe 12 people who are going to actually read your thesis. And so I think just the opportunity to be able to share a piece of your heart, your work, your effort to the wider audience, not just yourself, is such an insane opportunity. And that's why I'm so grateful for 3MT to be surrounded by such brilliant, talented people. I feel like the dumbest person in the room right now. Like, they're so smart. Like, this was a really cool opportunity. And I think being able to share a story about your work is something that's going to help you, not just as a scientist, but as a person. So that's why I think this is so cool.
Thank you so much.
To state the elephant in the room, so a lot of these people have been doing this for a while. I'm in my first year of my master's, so to be honest, this was to help me understand my own research. You know, what I'm doing and also the impact of it. We were talking earlier about how sometimes we get so deep into our work that we don't actually realize how important it is. And when we see what other people are doing, we're like, oh, that's so cool. And we need to remind ourselves that what we're doing is also very cool. So yeah, if you're not really sure what you're doing in your master's, I would recommend doing this.
And also, all of the students here are dedicating literally years or their lives to their project. So it's even more beautiful to see all of these years of effort shared with everyone.
So if anyone has a question?
I'm not sure if this is on. Can anyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. Actually, I have a question for Lee. I was really, really inspired by your presentation, and I would like to know more about like the magic paper that you discussed. Is that something that existed already and you guys just applied it in a new way, or is that something you invented? And if so, like how long does it take to invent something that incredible?
Actually, we already create this kind of magic paper. And it works, and we plan to, because now for my research, I only use to detect just one pesticide. In the future, I plan to just like because there might be multiple pesticides on one apples. So we can try to introduce the AI, the data analysis algorithm, to address this issue. Maybe in the future, all of us can use this to detect those kind of stuff on our fruits.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So is there anyone else who would like to ask a question to our candidates about either about their presentation or maybe about their academic journey? Do you have any questions?
Before you jump on with a question, the code is working now, the website is working, so let's get to work. Everyone scan and do the voting.
Is it working? Okay, maybe not. Awesome. Congratulations to all of you. I'm really excited to vote too now that the link is working. I know that you have some amazing mentors and folks who've trained you who are in the room. Shout out to them again. I'd love to know more about what the most important thing that you learned through the training process with 3MT, throughout your journey, if anyone wants to share.
I think something that really helped me and that was kind of eye-opening is, so I work with a lot of families, parents have children with autism, and a lot of people, they're science is very inaccessible. So they have a lot of questions, and it's very hard to try to explain to them how something works when it's very complex. If you're talking about genetics and stuff. So just putting a lot of thought into the different analogies. The whole keyboard thing, yes, it's cool, I can present it today. But using that keyboard analogy with a parent, wow, their eyes go actually that makes a lot of sense, or maybe and it's not perfect, but having that opportunity to create this analogies that you can help people use with, I think it's very, very nice, and it was eye-opening. Yeah.
I've always loved teaching, and I've loved languages, and I felt like 3MT was a combination of both. There are a lot of people that have inspired me in science, my supervisor, Dr. Marco Layton, and I think in this process of the 3MT, I'm very grateful to all the coaching sessions, because I think one of the challenges is to take a concept that can be sometimes tricky to explain, like epigenetics, which could take me an entire semester to talk about, and then try to condense it into a metaphor that can be engaging within 3 minutes. But that's the beauty and the key of science. We should all learn it. We all have the right to learn it. And that's what it becomes such an honor to be here and to be able to engage between all of us, to be able to learn these concepts. And throughout this process, I remember perfecting this metaphor in different types of adjustments. And for that reason, thank you to all the team and to all the advice, and also to my family who heard me countless times repeat these 3 minutes, and they were very patient with all the tiny variations. So thank you.
Hey, first of all, congratulations to all of you. I hope all of you succeed in your research and it all comes to fruition. This is one of the first times in a long time where I haven't heard the words AI mentioned very much. I'm curious if some of you could comment, what role is AI playing in the research you're doing right now, and what do you see as far as how it's going to help or maybe not help? Really curious.
I could jump in on the question. Thank you for the question, Dad. So in my research in particular, a lot of the upsampling of the image that I was describing, so going from a clinical image to a research quality image, you can call this AI. It's really fundamentally the same techniques. I chose in my presentation to not use the word AI because I think it's sometimes it's very fuzzy. What does this mean? So it's very involved in the research. And then day to day, working through ideas and working on drafts and trying to see, how can I frame things differently? I use AI as a tool to help give me ideas. So it's very present.
Yeah, I think to answer it from someone that's maybe a little bit less close to you, I think for me, like, AI is just speeding up things. It isn't completely changing how research is done. It is revolutionizing it, but it isn't like changing it fundamentally. I think that one thing for my research is AlphaFold was this big thing that was brought out which can predict the folding of protein structures using AI. And say I can use that to predict something for my work that maybe would have taken a few years to do from another lab. So it can just help with speeding up kind of finding things, finding literature. It can really help in that regard. And in that way, it is kind of, I'm optimistic for AI in that sense, in that it will help with research in the future. But obviously, there are plenty of negatives to be aware of. But for me, so far, my experience has been pretty positive. So hopefully it continues.
So in my case, the algorithms that AI people have built in the past are helping me to identify those cells that remember that the virus jumps from the brainstem to the next. So it helps me to know what the other neuron, what the next neuron is doing in terms of signaling to cause anorexia and in which parts of the brain it is more likely to go to. So I am not developing the tools myself, but using what other people do, which is what we do in science and in so many other disciplines, that we take what other people's work also to enrich our work. So that is, in my case, how AI has impacted what I am doing. Yeah, and for that, I'm super grateful. I think if used properly, AI definitely can support us to do so much more in different levels. So not just science, in societies, but yes, that is how.
Do we have any other?
Hi guys, wonderful presentations all around. I just had one question for a general audience, I guess. Was there a component of your guys' research in specific that you guys found to resonate a lot more with the audience through this process? And how did that change your perception on your research?
We're going to let a few seconds to our participants to think.
I think Cece's ready.
Well, my research is fundamental analytical chemistry, and I'm in my 4th year. So for 4 years, I've been looking at it only from an analytical chemistry aspect. But when I started to look into how I can present my research for the GMT, and I realized the health implications and the ecotoxicology part, that's when I realized how PFAS can actually affect every one of us, and that PFAS is present in all of our blood at this point. So I think through this process, I started appreciating my research more, because after staying in the lab for 4 years, I could only have one single perspective of my research. But now I could actually view it from another point, and like I said, appreciate it more.
So for me, suicide research has always hit close to home. I do have a family member that we lost to suicide, and so that experience can make it seem very isolating, but throughout this process and talking to people more and more about suicide, I started to realize that it's not isolating. People are interested, people actually care, while it's still, a difficult thing to talk about. Like, just looking at all of your faces, you were all like so focused and had these like concerned looks on your faces, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone want to add anything?
Maybe just one thing that stands out to me, from these answers and also personally, is that this is also an opportunity to reconnect us with the problems that we're working on, and to share almost like the more emotional sort of component that you wouldn't be able to find. You'd see a statistic in the paper in the first few paragraphs that no one reads, but like you wouldn't express this in the same way. And I think it's nice to have that reflection too of what does this mean for the end user, sort of, and who am I doing this for? And it was nice to go back into that mindset, so thank you for that. Yeah.
I want to add to that also. Yeah, I think I do poverty research, and it's something that I find very bothersome when I walk around downtown Montreal, hence the start of my talk today. Nonetheless, it's been so normalized. So I think being able to discuss this with an audience like you is a good way for me to also be able to express how not normal I find that and how it shouldn't be normal, and just to be able to start that dialogue because of the fact that it's something we see that's so common. Nonetheless, we have a country that's extremely resource rich, and I think it doesn't have to be as big of a problem as it is. So thank you for engaging with it because of the fact that it's something that we all experience, right? If you're walking around this city or wherever your hometown is, you're going to see poverty, and it's something that I don't want to have us walk around and think that's just a part of how society works, because I don't think it's how it should work.
I just want to start by saying, great question. It really got me to think how. But I think when you were asking the question, the first thing that came to my mind is that language or communication in general is just such a human thing. It's deeply rooted in culture and how we talk to others, it's how we connect to people. So the ability to be able to express our thoughts or emotions or opinions to others, it's very important in society in general. So understanding how that can go wrong or how sometimes people have difficulties with language is something that really, really interests me. Why is it that, I'm able to sit here today with this mic and I can tell you that I love salsa, for example, but some people can't do that or they struggle with that. I think it's something that really resonates with me in that sense. But great question, yeah.
Thank you all for sharing such beautiful answers and so great questions. And just a quick reminder, we have last 5 minutes to vote. So in case if you have not yet voted, please go and vote. And if the website is loading, it could be because a lot of you are trying to access, so be patient. And to the ones watching online as on YouTube live stream, you should have found the link in the description box. So make sure to vote because the voting is going to close soon.
So I have actually a question about a project. So it's to Cece. So you presented your research about a molecule which is responsible for anorexia in cancer. And I know a lot of patients, they experiment nausea as well. Is that molecule somewhat involved with nausea or what's my question?
Thank you. Yes, it is. Actually, the specific type of loss of appetite that is experienced because of this molecule is that kind of type in which they may not get nausea at the level that people that may throw up at some point, but they do feel this sense like when we are very sick, and I think we've all been very sick and we just don't want anything. Even if we have our favorite meal done, we just don't want to eat it. So it's that kind of aversive, which is a level of nausea that's kind of low, that is not necessarily inviting you to, go to the bathroom and throw up, but you do feel it like very mild, and that prevents you from eating because you feel you're gonna get sicker and it's not gonna feel good. So that is the specific type of anorexia that GDF15 that the molecule causes. So it's not just that you just don't want to eat, but it has this feeling of sickness associated. Yes.
Thank you very much.
We can probably take a couple of last questions, if anyone has any questions.
Or if you'd like to say like a special word to some of our candidates because you really liked their presentation as well, please free to share your thought about one of the subjects that has been presented today. Please, we invite you to. And if you don't want to, it's fine as well.
Well, I'll just make a comment. I think it's really refreshing that today we heard about a lot of problems, but we also heard about solutions. And especially on a day like today, it's really refreshing to hear about optimism and how we're solving things and not just problems that are really tough to solve, that there's no vision for some way to make the world a better place. So I really appreciate all of you for that. Thank you.
And all of you as well, if you want to share something, this is your moment to do. We have a couple of minutes.
So I would also like to warmly congratulate all of you for your presentation, and especially for some of you that have been presenting in a language that is different from your maternal language. I personally know how it can be challenging to speak in another language, and especially here with the stress, the technical words, and the challenge of presenting to a broad audience. I think it's a very courageous. Is that a word in English? It takes a lot of courage. So I would like to warmly congratulate you for that.
I do have one other question. Don't want to hog the microphone. This is actually directed to Lynn. I'm stressed right now just talking into this microphone. I can only imagine how much stress you had being the last participant, and you were so composed and so confident. Is this something that you've had to really work on? Is this something that comes naturally to you? Tips and tricks would be happy to hear.
For sure. Well, I have to be honest, when I first got the news that I was going to be last, I was not happy about it at all. But then with the mentors and through the coaching sessions, I got a lot of great advice. I think also we've been taken care of very well the entire day. Our day actually started at 11:30 this morning, where we were really made welcome in the group. We had a practice session. We even had a meditation session. And all that stuff really, really helped. And then it's just, you try to remember like the calm, like breathing exercises that we did before. And also just to like focus on the other people's talk and not getting into your own head too much. But those were all things that really helped me by being in the situation of going last.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Would any other?
I would just like to shout out the mic grab. That was incredible. Like, you handled that so well. Yeah.
Does anybody want to add anything to it? Share your experience?
I don't know, this gives me so much joy. You're all winners. If we had the parchment for all of you, we would give it to all of you. This has been amazing, and it's been such a great, it's emblematic of what we do in all departments, the entire culture at McGill, and you represent us so well. We're so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that, because I'm so glad I'm not on the judging panel sitting outside deliberating right now, because all of you, the 14th presentation, they were just amazing. And like many of you mentioned, we often get so indulged in our research that we keep seeing it from a scientific perspective and not always from a general aspect. When I participated in the 3-minute competition by Tyson 2 years back, that's exactly what my feeling was also like. It sort of reconnected me with research, where I'm like, oh, my research is actually cool. It was sort of like a realization moment for me. I know many of you might be feeling it right now. So we're so proud of you, and congratulations. You have done an amazing job today.
I guess just as a follow-up for what you said, I just want to thank also the sound team and the people that were here supporting us, that were so quickly aware that there was a problem with my mic and, saved my presentation. So thank you. Thank you for that.
So I have an overall question for anyone who wants to answer. So we're spending years on our Master of PhD thesis. Do you have an idea of what you want to do after you're done with your thesis? I know that's a huge question most of the time.
That's more like an existential question right now for those who are finishing.
Not necessarily work, like big travel, relax, enjoying not having to write that thesis.
I do not know what I'm doing after work-wise. I have ideas, but travel-wise, I do want to, I'm finishing my thesis, finishing my master's degree. Don't think I'm going to do a PhD. That goes back and forth sometimes, but right now it's a no. And so I'm thinking of going and spending a month just walking the Camino trail in Spain, just because I think it'll be a good transition from academic life, spend a month walking and thinking, and then enter work life, and I'm excited for that, for what comes next. Yeah.
That sounds like a plan. Maybe there'll be more members to that walk joining with you.
Oh, I'll definitely come with you if I'm done with my own thesis.
I also have a question to anyone who would like to answer, but I would like to hear the story that led you to, well, your topic, your research. What led you to research what you do research? How you came across these ideas, these processes? Please.
Yeah, for me, I think my work is with CRISPR, as I blabbed on about, but I really kind of fell in love with it. I watched this documentary on Netflix in, I think, 2019 called Unnatural Selection. Really good documentary, and I'd recommend you watching it. But I just thought the potential of genetic engineering, it comes with a lot of ethical issues and stuff like that, but I think the potential of it I really saw. I thought that it could turn into a big field, and in some ways it has, in some ways it hasn't as well, but they ended up winning the Nobel Prize for it, as they mentioned a year, I think, after, and I really wanted to work with that, so I sought out my supervisor, and who was working with CRISPR at the time, and he didn't answer my email, and then he didn't answer my second email, and then on the third one I kind of got annoyed, and I asked someone in his group to go and ask him to respond to his email. So in the end, I ended up getting in with him, and some of my lab are here today, so thank you for coming. But yeah, I really wanted to work in something that had a lot of potential, and I think everyone's work clearly does as well. So that was kind of what brought me into that field.
I remembered talking with my supervisor about the field of epigenetics. I've always been intrigued by it. That's why I did my undergrad in psychology and microbiology. And I remember hearing for the first time that there was a way to look at epigenetics in the living human brain. And I was just, my eyes went wide. I was astounded. I was excited to be part of this work. And that was my initial sort of, motivation as well. But throughout this research, talking to participants, hearing their stories, you also get a humane understanding of the struggles that each person goes through. And you tend to think, when you are from a distance, a certain category, like addiction. It looks so broad, but at the same time, when you look at each individual in person and understand their struggles, you sort of connect to them, you want to help, and at the same time, sometimes what we do in the lab seems so separated from what people suffer in reality. So you find inspiration, and you find that energy, and you keep going to the lab knowing that every step that we make here hopefully can help all of these people that I've known and all the others that I have not. I come from Colombia as well. In my country, I've seen the witness the problems that this type of addiction can cause it also at systemic level. And I hope that this type of research can not only like help out the people that I've met, but in general, like everyone else. So thank you, and thank you all for listening.
I remember watching this movie by Mark Ruffalo. It's called Dark Waters, and that was the first time I heard about PFAS. And then within a few months, the PFAS is everywhere. Like forever chemicals in your food, forever chemicals in your non-stick pan, your clothes. And then I was really interested, what is this forever chemicals? I got to know that my professor works in this field. I wrote to her. And then when I first met with her, she said, there's so many PFAS out there that we don't even know, that we don't even detect. And then I said, yeah, I'm going to detect that. I'm going to find a technique for that. 4 years ago, I was fully motivated and confident about doing that. So that's how I got into this research.
Can I ask like a general question, if that's okay? Thank you for the presentations. I think it was mind-blowing. The research that you're doing, it's truly inspiring for me. And I wanted to ask, like, from a PhD student to another, what does being a graduate student mean to you? Like, I know it's suffering, I know it's a lot of resilience, but what is it important? Like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. For me, it's opportunity. So in my program, I'm studying medicine, and I have a 4-year timeline for my PhD. But the 4 years, it's short, but it's also very liberating because I have the time to go deep into things that I wouldn't otherwise have the time to go deep into. And I think, at least in my field in neuroscience at McGill, there's such incredible opportunities afforded by McGill and the neuro. And so, for example, in my project, we're using this research scanner. There's 3 in Canada, and the only one in Quebec is at the neuro. And so I really feel privileged to have these opportunities and be able to do things that very few places in the world would be able to do. And to take that time to really dig deep and truly understand sort of the questions we're asking and also the methods that we're using to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to add to it?
For me as well, I definitely agree with the idea that you mentioned of opportunity. I think as well, obviously it's a difficult journey, but I think it's one of the only times that you get to talk to people who are mostly passionate about what you're interested in. Like, I'm just thinking of myself, I can spend an hour on a Zoom call with my supervisor, and we're just going back and forth about ideas and interpreting the analyses, and whether through that or going through conferences, when you get to speak to individuals who are really interested in your field as well and seeing your ideas come to life, I think that's a really great opportunity.
I know we're putting all of you in spotlight, but we can still take a couple of questions.
So maybe our judge are done deliberating? Okay, well, I'm gonna ask a last question then. So do you have any advice if there is other PhD, master students, or undergrad students who are here in the room or watching us online and who are interested maybe in participating in next editions? Do you have any advice for them, or do you like to share anything for these students?
I will just say you should do it. I signed up on the last day last night to sign up. I was like, yeah, this sounds fun. And it was a really, really enriching experience. I'm also, in my master's, and so it was very helpful, even as I'm also writing my thesis, to be doing this alongside. And it was also just a very fun addition within the master's degree. It kind of threw something in there, a little bit of some fun, a speech, some competition. It's a really good addition. If you're considering it, or if you're a little bit nervous, I'd highly recommend, because it's a very good opportunity, and there's a great team supporting you. So just do it.
I could see that there was a resounding 13 yes from here, from the rest of the finalists. So that's an opportunity and a call to our next year's 3MT participants. And I would like to thank all the finalists who, for your responses, and all the audience for your really amazing questions. Thank you. You can go back to your seats. Before we announce today's winners, we would like to take a moment to thank all our judges today, for whom I'm not sure, undoubtedly they might have had a very challenging task at hand outside deliberating. So thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us today.
Et félicitations à tous nos finalistes pour la qualité de vos présentations. S'il vous plaît, un tonnerre d'applaudissements pour ces magnifiques présentations.
We would like to now invite on the stage our Dean Josephine to announce the results.
So we're going to start with the People's Choice Award first, and then we'll move up, I guess, or whatever, the way it was on the slide. So the People's Choice Award, voted by the audience here and online, is Gabrielle Blanco Gomez. Third place, Keziah Brothers. I hope Keziah's award will motivate other people from the Faculty of Arts. Or maybe you can try recruiting more students from the Faculty of Arts. Second place in the 3MP is Gabrielle Blanco Gomez. Gagnant du 180 secondes, ma thèse en 180 secondes, Daniel Mendelsohn. So English first place, Rachana Ramamurthy. So thank you everyone for participating, for being here. We do have a reception, but I think there are some photos with the winners themselves, right? Together. So thank you, and we have a reception outside. And see you next year.